Hello everyone and welcome back to Sendix Weather Channel. Today we're back and we're going to be looking at the latest from the models for the next couple of weeks. But we're mainly going to be focusing on the next 10 days because anything past day 10 is of course uncertain. Now, we've been talking about the potential for a cold spell developing within the next 5 or 6 days, which is going to bring cold conditions expected quite widely to the majority of the UK. Now, of course, you might have seen some news headlines from some people or from the media, and we're going to be having a look at that today. We're going to have a look at our own snow risks. Now, of course, it's still a long way away and things can change in terms of forecasting rain, sleet and snow, but we're going to have a look at the precipitation charts for a bit of fun anyway, and hopefully you can understand there's not a massive risk of snow, but there could be a few flurries and flakes around, and we're going to have a look at that today. We're going to have a look at the main models, of course, to start with, and if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more if you enjoy the video. Now let's get on. So we're going to start off with something I showed a few days ago, which is the NAO. Basically, when this is in the negative phase, so if it's below this 0 line, it increases the chances of blocking. As you can see, there's more model agreement for it to go slightly negative, which is why we are seeing a block or a blocking pattern gathering pace, allowing colder air to sink southwards. Now, we'll get on there. We'll start with the icon run. So at the moment, we are feeling pretty pleasant this week with winds in from the west-southwest. It's feeling pretty nice. However, into the weekend and into next week, it turns more unsettled for the south and west with this cut-off low, which is bringing some rain to France, Spain, Portugal and the southwest of the UK, but also allowing milder air again to push in from the southeast. So it feels pretty pleasant, as you can see here, with temperatures rising into the mid-teens. Maybe even an isolated 15-16 degree further south. However, all of a sudden there's a sudden change as high pressure begins to build towards Greenland and Iceland, which allows colder air to filter in from Scandinavia from the northeast. And all of a sudden, that colder air shoves that milder air down the bin. So it shoves it away. This high pressure begins to block in the Atlantic, going up towards Greenland. And as you can see, there's the Atlantic trying to break through, but this block is stopping it and preventing it, allowing us to bring in colder winds from the northeast. Now again, it's not amazingly cold, but it's cold enough for a few wintry showers in the north and the east. We'll have a look at that in a moment. But yeah, that's definitely bringing the wind from a northeasterly direction. The -5 line is moving into the country. Resurged northerly winds. This is, there's some relatively cool / cold air over to our east. But again, remember that we have to factor in the time of year. So this is the 13th of March this chart is from. It looks cold. If it was winter, we'd be expecting, maybe a bit widespread winteriness. But because it's the middle of March, it's a bit more difficult to forecast as. But sun strength is stronger, of course, as we're moving into spring. So, excuse me. So the chance of snow is massively reduced days, but overnight definitely is the best time for it to fall. We're not expecting massive accumulations because of the time of year, but you could never rule it out, of course. The daytime temperatures probably won't be too bad. We'll just be a bit chilly, but overnight temps will drop fast. 5, 6, 7, but overnight could drop quite quick, which is where you could see harsh overnight frost and, of course, a few wintry showers, which might excite some of you. Now we'll move on to the GFS. Obviously, this only runs out to day 10. At the moment, but again we have that similar pattern, that low pressure cut-off low going to our south and east by the weekend. High pressure's out to just to our east, bringing in the winds from a quite mild southeasterly wind. But then you can see the cold air's lurking. High pressure begins to build out in the Atlantic up towards Greenland, and we begin to pull down some quite cold northeasterly winds. Now with the GFS, latest GFS 12Z run, which again is just coming out, but we only need to know out to about day 7, day out at this point, establishes that block to our north, maintaining the wind in from the northeast, keeping that colder air in place for much of the UK besides far southwest and for parts of the Republic of Ireland, which could still be quite pleasant. Well, for much of the UK, even out to the 14th of March, sustaining this block between Iceland and Scandinavia, continuing to bring in the wind from the east. However, as you can see, that cold pool is dissipating, is moving away, and the cold air available to us is beginning to reduce. But this is still pretty cold, and yeah, there could be some snow around. Now, I want to show this. This is the UKV run. This is from the midnight run, or the 3 AM run, you could say. And as you can see, I just want to show this. You can see at the very end of the run, the cold air begins to move southwards on the 10th. And as you can see, at the end of the run, there's all the milder temperatures. And you can see the colder air by the 10th is beginning to make inroads. And that cold air is what we're expecting to move further south. So now I want to bring up the GFS precipitation type. Remember, this is just one model run. And of course, take it with a pinch of salt. So we're going to run through. So for the next, few days, there's a few areas of rain, mostly centred to the west and southwest. With the area of low pressure bumping northwards. But as we move through to the 10th and the 11th of March, you can see the cold air begins to dig further southwards. A lot of it's rain at this stage, but the cold air's not properly in. Turning to snow, there's that cold front there. This is a cold front, which is the boundary between the milder and colder air. That begins to sink southwards. A lot of dry weather, but again, there's a few scatterings of wintry flurries around in the north and the east, especially. They could drift further inland in the easterly winds. But yeah, again, a few spatterings around of wintry showers are possible. If we have a look at the 6Z run, it was a bit more optimistic for snow, as you can see. Much more of a northeasterly wind, bringing in some quite patchy, but some interest with a lot of snow showers back into the north and the east. Actually, quite extensive snow showers on the GFS 6Z. That'll get some of you interested, I'm sure. With the amount of snow showing on the 6Z run, quite a bit, quite widespread as well. But again, of course, it's just one model run, and there's still a lot of uncertainty. The chance of snow for southern regions is still quite low. Central regions up to about 30%, and northern regions 50 to 60%. Most of the snow will be concentrated in the east. Now we'll take a look at the GM run to see what that is showing. So again, we've got that similar pattern, high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north, winds in from the mild southwesterly wind. That turns more unsettled for the south and west, with that low pressure bumping up to the north. High pressure begins to migrate to our west by Monday the 10th, and we begin to drag in colder air from the north-northeast, and by the 11th, at 6 AM on the 11th, we're all sinking into cold air. That blocks out, established out to our west, between Greenland and Iceland, a mid-Atlantic ridge, and we have low pressure over towards Scandinavia and Norway, and winds are in from the north, bringing the -5 line and showing the difference between milder and colder air. That high pressure sits over and just to the west of the country, maintaining that cold air from the east, and there's little troughs and features moving in, and by the very end there's hints of some very cold air masses moving in from the east with the GM. You see, the -10 line is just off the east coast. That's very cold for the time of year. Little trough there, could be a little snow event on the 15th of March, a long way off, of course. But that block seems to move towards Scandinavia. Quite interesting, but it's quite a sustained and prolonged block with the GM today. What I will say is that the models do typically tend to underdo the this blocking, and they like to try and return back to a westerly pattern as quick as they can. With a lot of these runs. So this cold spell could last longer than anticipated at the moment, but of course it's something to monitor. Now if I show you the ECM midnight run, or I can show you the 6Z, the midnight run has more of a northerly wind with that high pressure out to our west, bringing down bitterly cold, well not bitterly cold, but cold air from the north, and again, there's areas of colder air. It keeps it quite cold for much of the run. Does turn milder, however, at time as that high pressure sinks over the top of the country. For at the very end, high pressure retreats to our west again, and we get a plunge of cold northerly winds. Again, a long way off, unlikely to verify, but it shows the potential with the SSW, with sudden stratospheric warming, all the developments going on in our atmosphere. Now we can see the UK Met's just coming out. We'll show it in a few spells, and well, the UK Met doesn't build that block as far northwards as some of the other runs. It does still get it up towards Greenland and Iceland, bringing in the wind from the northeast on the 10th. But by the 11th, we're bringing in more of a northeasterly wind, but that looks less blocked because it is a little bit weaker, but you never know. It's still there. It's still bringing cold northeasterly winds with the -5 line, sinking southwards. But again, it highlights a little bit of uncertainty. Now, if we have a look at the GFS runs, you can see, we'll have a look, they're just coming out now, but they're beginning to drop away. If we have a look at the 6Z runs, you can see that definite trend, alright buddy, definite trend downwards, got milder air at the moment for the next couple of days, next 5 days, before a big plunge downwards, and keeping it quite cool or even cold for the next couple of, into the middle to the third quarter of March. with all the runs going below average. There's not many mild outliers in here, but of course, we can't rule it out as a possibility. But yeah, turning cold from about the 11th of March, the -5 line sinking southwards. Now, if we have a look at the snow row for the 6Z, that's definitely increased. So I'd put that, there's quite a few snow spikes appearing between the 11th and the 14th of March. I'd put the percentage chance at about 30 to 40% chance. Between, you know, in a quite broad area, because there was literally 2 runs yesterday going for snow. There you go, that's yesterday, and that's today. So there's definitely been an increase in the runs. You can even see on the latest run, there are a few appearing early. But there we go. So what do we think to that, everyone? I think it's quite interesting. Thank you all very much for tuning in today's video. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, everyone.